The biggest embarrassment in the NHL just might belong to my team, the San Jose Sharks. And what I'm about to tell you will totally erase any thoughts that you have around the Coyotes arena situation or anything relating to the Calgary Flames this year. The Sharks are the worst home team in the NHL this year, and it's not even close. Their record is 6-18-8. They haven't even won 20% of their home games. In fact, they're so bad at home that they might set a modern NHL record. According to StatMuse, if the Sharks were to lose their remaining 9 home games, and it's not out of the realm of possibility, they would set the record as the worst home team in the modern NHL's history. As you can see here, for the last almost 50 years, the record has belonged to the Washington Capitals, who won just 6 of their 40 games, so a win percentage of just 15%. Now, for the Sharks' remaining opponents, there's only one of them who is not battling for a playoff spot. That's the Columbus Blue Jackets. The remaining opponents for San Jose include the following: the Wild, the Kraken, the Islanders, the Jets, the Golden Knights, the Oilers, and the Avalanche. Twice. And don't forget, folks, by trading Timo Meier, this doesn't make the Sharks' situation any easier. So how is my favorite team this disastrous at home? Let's go inside the numbers here. So first of all, the Sharks are last in the NHL when it comes to goals against average at home, 4.00. On your own home ice. They're last in the NHL in third period goals conceded with 53. That is 10 more than the next team. Despite actually scoring some goals in the first period, the Sharks have been terrible with holding leads. They have the most losses and the lowest winning percentage when leading after the first 20. And as you can probably guess, they have the lowest winning percentage when scoring first in any game. Alongside the Blues, the Sharks have only won 1 home game when conceding the first goal. That's worst in the NHL. And alongside the Dallas Stars, the Sharks are tied for the most overtime or shootout losses at home with 8. The next 2 teams have just 5. San Jose started the season winning just 1 of their first 11 home games, and recently they wrapped up a 7-game stretch in which they only won 1 of those contests. Let me just tell you how abysmal this was. First of all, they were outscored 31-18, and most of these teams are at best a bubble playoff team. Oddly enough, their one win was against a team that should make the playoffs, and that's the Seattle Kraken. It was a 4-0 victory. That was the Sharks' first victory against a Pacific Division opponent at home. They needed until February 20th to break the slump. That improved their home record against the Pacific to 1-5-4. And when you look at the Sharks against the Pacific, they've been outscored at home in those 10 games, 49-31. Almost 5 goals against per game, and for half of those games, the attendance was at 12,000 or lower. And as somebody who's watched this team for all season long, it's not like they're just sucking ass for 60 minutes. They're actually looking pretty good against some of the better teams in the NHL, and then they let things just completely fall to pieces. In the last 2 home games against the Blues and the Capitals, the Sharks actually had a multi-goal lead early on, and somehow it ended up as a blowout in favor of the other team. David Quinn even got ejected in the most recent contest. If you recall, just a couple weeks ago, the Sharks honored Patrick Marleau by retiring his jersey the first time in franchise history. And what does the team do? They lay an egg in a shootout against the Chicago Blackhawks. You could even think back a couple of months to when the Sharks had consecutive home games against the Calgary Flames and managed to concede 12 goals. Now, one huge reason why the Sharks are failing on the ice at home is because they're just failing when it comes to drawing interest in San Jose. When it comes to attendance by capacity percentage, the Sharks are the second worst team in the NHL. Only Buffalo is worse, and I think that the weather has something to do with that. I grew up going to Sharks games. I was there during the prime years of Thornton, Marleau, Nabokov, Pavelski even later on, and Burns when he was in his prime. That arena used to be a rockin' barn. It was acclaimed as one of the loudest barns in the NHL if we look at the mid-2000s up until probably the mid-2010s. But things really started to fall off in the middle of the last decade. I actually covered this extensively 2 years ago on the channel. I'll link you down below. There's still some good information there. But to summarize things, the Sharks had more season ticket holders a decade ago in 2012 than they have total attendees at their games right now. And one thing that really doesn't add up here is that even though the Sharks are in maybe the most expensive American market in the NHL, maybe tied with New York, they, according to Ticket IQ, actually have the lowest average ticket price in the NHL this season. And just by watching games on TV, I can hear the players talking a lot of the time. It's that quiet in the building, you can almost hear a pin drop. There might be a "Let's Go Sharks" once in a while, but it just pales in comparison to what we've experienced as fans in the years prior. So what's it going to take for the Sharks to get better? Is this really the abyss for them, or are things only going to get worse? we're now going on 4 years in a row in which the Sharks are missing the playoffs. And when you compare this to Anaheim, right, this is their 5th consecutive year. At least right now on the ice, they have marketable talent for the future ahead in the likes of Trevor Zegras and Mason McTavish. Who do the Sharks have? You know, Eklund and Bordelot have played a few games, but really, are they going to put butts in the seats going forward? Are they going to contribute to a much better performance on the ice next year? And those guys aside, when you look at this roster, all you see for the most part are bloated contracts, reclamation projects, and fourth liners. Really, with these Sharks, when you look at that roster, who do you want to see on this roster if they're good in 3 years? It's going to take at least that long. Do you want to see Tomas Hertl, who's already declined this season? Do you want to see a 35-year-old Erik Karlsson or a 36-year-old Logan Couture? Lots of fans out there will say, well, why don't you just trade Couture? Why don't you just trade Marc-Edouard Vlasic? Well, these 4 players, Karlsson, Hertl, Couture, and Vlasic, all have some sort of no-trade clause or no-move clause, and they're under contract for at least the next 3 years, comprising a total of $34 million. And so when you don't have as much money to spend on high-profile free agents, look, things don't look like they're going to get any better unless maybe this team gets Connor Bedard. You're going to have to rely going forward on the prospect pool, and there's certainly criticism to go around in terms of how the Sharks have built that over the past few years, even when they haven't been a competitive club. Anyway, what do you make of this situation for San Jose? Is this the worst that it's ever going to be, or could things get even worse for them? How do they reshape their core going forward? And what does the organization need to do differently in order to draw fans? Certainly the city doesn't really care that much about helping them out. They're more concerned about making money off of Google. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and stick around for more coverage of the NHL. It's been wonderful welcoming so many of you fans recently through our streams, the trade deadlines, and all that good stuff. Anyway, I am Nick, and I appreciate you Twisters so much for tuning in. You have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll catch you later. Ciao.